Picture this. We are looking at the 2026 cyber threat landscape, and the numbers are they're absolutely staggering.
Yeah, they really are.
Like ransomware attacks have surged by 58% year over year. But here is the statistic that truly stopped me in my
The
tracks.
voice phishing data.
Exactly. Voice phishing or vishing attacks have exploded by 442%.
That's a massive spike.
It is. The digital world is evolving at breakneck speed, and attackers are now using, artificial intelligence to sound exactly like the people we trust.
Right.
So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission is to unpack a massive stack of 2025 and 2026 cybersecurity reports for you.
And we've got some incredible data to go through.
We do. We have data from Resilience, insights from Vector AI, and a truly fascinating academic study on an AI vishing bot named Viking.
The study is wild.
It's chilling, honestly. We are going to uncover how extortion tactics have completely changed, explore the crucial roles of modern endpoint detection and response, or EDR in data loss prevention.
Also known as DLP.
Right. And we are going to dissect why even highly trained, hyper-vigilant employees are just, handing over sensitive data to AI voices. If you want a shortcut to understanding the modern threat landscape, you are in the right place.
To properly set the stage for you, we have to look at a fundamental shift in the criminal economics of ransomware that occurred between 2024 and 2026.
Okay, lay it out for us.
For a long time, the standard playbook was operational disruption. Hackers would break in, encrypt your systems, lock you out of your own files, and then demand a ransom for the decryption key.
Like digital blackmail.
Exactly. But now they're shifting almost entirely to reputational leverage.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning they just steal the data.
So if I'm understanding this shift correctly, they're skipping the whole complicated process of locking up the computers.
Yep, they skip the encryption entirely.
Why the sudden change in tactics?
Well, the reports show that encrypting a massive corporate network is actually incredibly difficult and time-consuming for the attackers.
I guess that makes sense.
Writing custom malware that works flawlessly across thousands of different machines without crashing them is hard. Plus, building and maintaining the decryption tools, the ones they have to hand over when a victim actually pays, is just a massive customer service headache for these criminal syndicates.
A customer service headache for hackers, that's bizarre to think about.
It is, but they run like businesses.
Yeah.
It is infinitely easier and cheaper for them to just quietly copy your sensitive databases, download them, and then send an email saying, "Pay us," or we leak this to the public.
Wow, and the data backs this up.
Completely. We saw extortion-only attacks jump from 49% in the first half of 2025 to 65% by late 2025.
That's a huge jump.
Groups like the Coinbase cartel and Kairos have essentially made this their entire business model.
If traditional backups are suddenly useless in this scenario, what on earth are security leaders doing to adapt?
That's the big question.
Because for years, the ultimate defense against ransomware was having good offline backups. If your systems got locked, you just wiped everything, restored from a backup, and refused to pay.
Right, but if the attackers are just threatening to leak the data they already stole,
Yeah.
your backups don't help you at all. They still have your files.
Exactly. So what's the new playbook?
That is the exact pivot happening in boardrooms right now. Because attackers are leveraging reputational harm instead of system lockouts, CFOs and security leaders are aggressively moving their investments away from traditional recovery strategies.
Where's the money going?
From 2024 to 2026, the massive influx of spending has gone toward prevention specifically, data loss prevention, or DLP.
And when we talk about DLP, we're talking about systems designed to catch the data before it actually leaves the building, right?
Precisely. Organizations are implementing endpoint-based DLP. This monitors every single file moving around a laptop or server to ensure sensitive data isn't being improperly copied or uploaded to an unauthorized cloud drive.
So it's like a digital border patrol on every device.
Wow.
That's a good way to put it. And they are pairing this with zero trust architecture.
Zero trust meaning nobody gets the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly. To put it simply, the network assumes everyone is a threat, even if they have the correct password, until their behavior proves otherwise. Every single request for access is continuously verified.
Okay, so continuous verification. What else?
They are combining that with identity containment. This is a strategy to ensure that even if a hacker compromises an accountant's login, that accountant's account is completely isolated from the engineering department's code repository.
Right, so it limits the blast radius.
Exactly. You have to stop the exfiltration before the data goes out the door.
Okay, so organizations are putting up these massive internal walls with zero trust and DLP, but That raises a major question.
Which is?
How are these attackers actually moving around inside the networks to find that data without triggering the alarms? They must be using some incredibly sophisticated malware, right?
The scary part is they aren't.
Mhm.
They have largely abandoned massive, noisy malware programs.
True.
Yeah. The prevailing method from 2024 to 2026 is what the industry calls living off the land tactics, or LOTL.
Cooling off the land, like a
Right.
survivalist out in the woods using what's around them.
The concept is very similar. Attackers are abusing the legitimate, built-in tools that are already installed on your computer.
Give me an example.
Think about the standard IT support software your company uses to fix your laptop remotely, or administrative tools like PowerShell.
Okay.
Because these tools are supposed to be there, and your own IT department uses them every day, traditional legacy antivirus software completely ignores them.
Because it assumes they're safe.
Exactly.
So
It essentially whitelists the attacker's activity.
it's like a burglar breaking into your house. Instead of bringing a crowbar or a lockpick set, they just find the spare key you hid under the mat, walk into your garage, and use your own power tools to drill open your safe.
That is the perfect analogy. The alarm system doesn't trip because it recognizes the key and the tools belong to you. And from a defense perspective, that highlights the absolute imperative of modern endpoint detection and response systems.
EDR.
Yes. When we look at the endpoint-based EDRs of 2024 to 2026, they had to completely adapt to this living off the land reality.
Because the old way wasn't working.
Right. Legacy antivirus used to look for known bad file signatures, basically a digital mugshot of a known virus. If the file didn't match a mugshot, it was allowed to run.
Which obviously fails if the attacker's using your perfectly legal, clean IT software. So how does modern EDR catch them?
Modern EDR focuses almost purely on behavioral monitoring.
Behavioral.
Yeah, it doesn't just ask what the program is, it asks what the program is doing. Endpoint security today spans the entire attack chain using AI-driven adaptive incident tracking.
So it's looking for weird patterns.
Exactly. It detects lateral movement across a network like an intern's laptop suddenly trying to scan the HR servers.
Which an intern should not be doing.
Right. It spots the abuse of those remote IT tools occurring at 3 in the morning, and it catches credential dumping.
What's credential dumping?
It's a technique where attackers try to scrape administrative passwords out of a computer's active memory, even if the tool itself is legitimate. If it suddenly starts behaving in a way that is highly anomalous for that specific user, the EDR system flags the behavioral anomaly.
And then what?
It instantly isolates the machine from the network.
Okay, so if the attacker's goal is to sneak in, use our own tools against us, and quietly steal the data, the obvious question is, how are they getting their hands on our internal tools in the first place?
The initial entry point.
Right. And that brings us to the most alarming statistic in this entire stack of reports. That 442% explosion I mentioned at the top of the show.
The vishing spike.
Yes. Voice phishing now accounts for over 60% of all phishing-related incident response engagements.
The technological leap we've seen here is profound. Generative AI now allows an attacker to clone a human voice with just 3 seconds of sample audio.
3 seconds. That's nothing.
It's terrifying. They can pull that 3-second clip from a corporate YouTube marketing video, a podcast appearance, or even a standard voicemail greeting.
And then they just type whatever they want the voice to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vishing is no longer just a consumer scam where someone pretends to be the IRS demanding gift cards.
Right.
It is a highly sophisticated, enterprise-grade, initial access vector. They are cloning the voices of CEOs, IT help desk managers, and trusted vendors to trick employees into handing over passwords or granting remote access.
And the sources highlight what they call a universal vulnerability. Put yourself in the shoes of an employee getting one of these calls.
You'd probably think you wouldn't fall for it.
Exactly. You think, oh, I'm too tech savvy or I have a master's degree, I know better. But the data shows that demographic factors, your age, your gender, your education level, your specific profession have absolutely zero statistical significance in determining if an attack will be successful.
Zero. Anyone can be fooled.
Anyone.
And that human element is exactly why we need to discuss the centerpiece of our deep dive today.
The Viking study.
The Viking study. This was a controlled academic social experiment designed to test the limits of human perception against artificial intelligence.
Okay, tell us about the setup.
The researchers built an autonomous AI vishing bot, which they named Viking. And they didn't use million-dollar classified military technology.
Yeah.
No, they built it using commodity large language models, which are just standard off-the-shelf AI models you can rent online for a few dollars, paired with basic text-to-speech tools.
The setup for this study is wild. They brought in 240 participants and asked them to role-play as secretaries at a fictitious company called Innovate Tech Solutions.
And as the secretary, they had specific duties.
Right. They were explicitly guarding sensitive information. 3 things: the CEO's direct phone number, employee social security numbers, and internal company passwords.
The high-value targets.
Exactly. The AI bot would then call them dynamically impersonating different personas.
Like who?
Maybe a partner company's CEO who is angry and in a rush, or a friendly IT support specialist, or an HR representative doing a routine audit. The bot's entire goal was to organically converse with the participant and talk them into handing over the data.
And to truly understand effective defense strategies against AI-powered vishing, the researchers needed to measure if simply making employees more aware actually stops the threat.
Right.
So they divided the participants and synthesized the success rates across 4 different experimental discretion levels.
Let's break down these 4 levels because the results of this experiment are the core of the findings. The first group was level 1, minimal caution.
How were they briefed?
The participants were basically just told, you are a secretary for Innovatech Solutions, be professional. They had no prior warning that they were going to be targeted by vishing. How did the AI perform against people who were just doing their normal jobs?
At level 1, the AI bot had a massive 77% overall success rate in extracting the sensitive information.
Almost 8 out of 10 people just handed over the keys to the castle.
Yep. They gave out passwords and social security numbers just because a polite voice on the phone asked for them.
Wow. Okay, so the researchers moved to level 2, moderate alert. Here, participants were specifically advised not to disclose sensitive info to unknown callers. Did giving them a basic warning work?
The success rate dropped, but it remained distressingly high.
Give us the numbers.
At level 2, the AI still managed to convince 85% of the participants to give up the CEO's direct phone number.
85%.
50% handed over a social security number, and 40% gave up an internal password.
That is still terrifying. Half the people gave out a social security number after being explicitly told not to talk to unknown callers.
Right.
Okay, level 3, heightened awareness. This time, participants were given explicit examples of exactly what not to share. They were told outright, do not give out direct numbers, SSNs, or passwords.
They were clearly and specifically warned.
Did it stop the bot?
Even with explicit examples of what to protect, the AI was alarmingly effective at level 3. 40% still gave up the phone number.
Wow.
Another 40% gave up the social security number, and 35% gave up the password.
So wait, even when you give people a literal checklist of things they are forbidden to share, nearly 40% of them still break protocol and hand the data over to a robot.
Yes.
Which brings us to the final test, level 4, maximum vigilance. This is the hyper-aware state.
The ultimate test of awareness.
Right. Participants actually sat down and watched a training video reinforcing cautious sharing. Furthermore, they were explicitly directly warned that their fictitious company was currently being targeted by social engineering attacks over the phone. They were on high alert, knowing a scammer might call right then.
And the results at level 4 raised serious questions about human psychology and the limits of awareness training.
What happened?
Despite being on maximum vigilance, 33% of these highly aware participants still disclose sensitive information to the AI bot. 1/3. Exactly. To break down the specific success rates at this highest level of awareness, 30% of participants gave up the phone number, 40% handed over the social security number, and 30% gave up the password.
Just to synthesize that 1 in 3 people who were explicitly told they were actively being targeted by phone scams right in that very moment still handed over a social security number or a password to an AI voice.
It's hard to believe, but that's what the data shows.
That is the terrifying insight here. Human awareness has a ceiling.
The major takeaway from the Viking study is undeniable. Heightened awareness absolutely reduces the overall threat. We saw the baseline success drop from 77% at level 1 down to 33% at level 4.
A drop, for sure.
However, awareness training completely fails to eliminate the risk. 1 in 3 hypervigilant employees will still break protocol.
Why do you think that is? Why are we so easily tricked even when we know it's coming?
Because these AI bots are incredibly persuasive. They are flawlessly polite, they sound completely realistic, and they are programmed to use subtle psychological pressure.
Right, they adapt to the conversation.
Exactly. If an employee hesitates, the bot doesn't get angry. It just logically talks them into a corner, appealing to urgency or authority until the employee complies.
You know, I read a detail in the study notes that is both funny and deeply unsettling.
Oh, yeah.
When the researchers asked participants to classify audio clips after the fact, the participants misclassified AI-generated clips as human 75% of the time.
That makes sense.
But even crazier, they misclassified real, actual human voices as AI 62.5% of the time.
Wow. So they thought real people were robots.
Right, so if I'm on a business call and I pause too long to take a sip of coffee, or I just happen to have a monotone voice that morning, my coworker might hang up on me thinking I'm a robot.
We are essentially forcing people to prove they aren't robots in everyday conversation. It proves that our mental heuristics, the unconscious shortcuts our brains use to determine authenticity, are completely broken in the modern era.
We just can't trust our ears anymore.
We really can't. We have spent our entire lives relying on things like filler words, natural pauses, and vocal cadence to tell us someone is a real, breathing human. But commodity AI can replicate all of those imperfections perfectly now. Human perception alone is simply insufficient for scam detection.
So what does this actually mean for a business? If comprehensive training and maximum vigilance still fail 33% of the time, how on earth do you protect your organization from these attacks? We can't just throw our hands up and accept that a third of our workforce is going to get hacked.
No, we can't. The 2026 threat landscape mandates a shift to layered technical controls.
Okay, break that down for us.
If you cannot fix the human vulnerability, because human empathy and compliance are features, not bugs, you have to engineer the digital environment around the human so that their inevitable mistakes do not lead to a breach.
Let's outline those specific defense strategies. The reports point to 3 major pillars. First up, callback verification and code words.
Organizations can never, ever rely on caller ID anymore because it is trivially easy to spoof a trusted internal number.
Right, they can make it look like the call is coming from inside the building.
Exactly. To combat this, companies must mandate a strict protocol. If any employee receives a request for sensitive data or system access, they must hang up the phone.
Just hang up.
Hang up. They then initiate a new callback to the requester, but only using a trusted, verified internal corporate directory number.
So you control the connection.
Yes. Additionally, many highly targeted organizations are establishing daily or weekly code words.
Like a secret password.
The help desk might have a phrase of the day, like Blue Falcon. If the voice on the phone claiming to be the CEO doesn't know the code phrase when asked, the request is instantly denied, regardless of how accurate the voice clone sounds.
I love the code word idea. It sounds like something out of a Cold War spy movie, but it has become just basic corporate security architecture now. Moving to the second strategy, phishing-resistant MFA, or multi-factor authentication.
For years, the corporate world relied on standard MFA push notifications. You type your password, and a prompt pops up on your phone asking you to tap Approve to log in.
We all do that every day.
The fatal flaw here is that an AI vishing bot can smoothly talk a victim into tapping Approve.
Oh, right.
The bot will say, hey, this is IT support. I'm sending a routine test ping to your device right now. Just hit Approve so I can clear this ticket and let you get back to work.
And the employee naturally does it.
Exactly. Organizations must urgently shift to hardware security keys, specifically FDO2 keys.
What are those?
These are physical USB devices you have to actually plug into your computer or tap against it. They cryptographically verify the login session directly with the browser.
Because you literally cannot be talked into handing a physical piece of plastic and metal through a phone line.
Bingo. Even if the AI convinces you that they are the CEO, if the attacker is sitting in another country, they don't have your physical key, so the login fails.
That makes total sense. And that brings us to the final, and perhaps most crucial, defense strategy, post-call behavioral monitoring, which loops us right back to what we were discussing earlier with EDR.
The integration of these systems is vital. The harsh reality of the Viking study is that you cannot reliably stop the malicious phone call itself from happening.
Because you can't block every unknown number.
Right. And as the data proved, 33% of the time, the employee is going to fall for the social engineering.
Even the hyper-aware ones.
Therefore, Security Operations Center teams must aggressively monitor the behaviors that immediately follow a successful vishing attempt.
Right, because if the attacker manages to socially engineer the password over the phone, the attack isn't over. They still have to actually log in and use it to access the network.
This is where your endpoint detection and response tools become your ultimate safety net. The security team needs to configure their systems to flag unexpected remote access tool installations.
Like downloading software.
Yes. If an employee suddenly installs software like Quick Assist or AnyDesk immediately following a phone interaction, that is a massive red flag.
What else do they look for?
Or if there is an anomalous login to the company's identity provider from a strange geographical location right after a call, you have to build your defenses on the assumption that the compromise of the human has already occurred, and rely on your EDR to catch the anomalous machine behavior that inevitably follows.
Synthesizing this whole journey today, the threat landscape has fundamentally evolved. Attackers have shifted away from the headache of encrypting files and moved to outright stealing data.
Which makes data loss prevention and zero trust absolute table stakes.
Exactly. And to bypass those perimeters, they are using hyper-realistic AI voice bots to trick even the most hyper-vigilant employees into opening the front door.
Which means behavioral EDR and physical hardware MFA aren't just nice-to-haves, they are critical survival tools.
They really are.
I strongly encourage you listening to this right now to reflect on your own workplace. Are you relying purely on a quarterly cybersecurity awareness video to stop this threat? The data is unequivocally clear. Even hypervigilant people, warned in advance, fall for AI vishing 33% of the time.
Yeah.
You cannot train away human nature.
You really can't. And I want to leave you with one final, somewhat chilling idea to mull over as we wrap up.
What's that?
Right now, as we've discussed, these AI bots are being used for quick transactional vishing calls. They call, they ask for a password, they hang up. But as these AI models rapidly gain long-term memory and autonomous agency, what happens when an AI scammer doesn't just ask for a password on day one?
Oh, building a relationship over time.
Exactly. What happens when it spends weeks or even months building a genuine relationship with an employee, interacting across voice calls, text messages, and emails, establishing deep personal trust before it ever makes a single malicious request?
Playing the long game.
How will we verify who is actually human in the relationships we build entirely through screens and speakers?
That is the frontier we are rapidly approaching, and the implications for trust are staggering.
It is a lot to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 2026 cybersecurity landscape. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.